If you're 3 years from retirement, you are standing at the most important point in the whole process. Most people sleepwalk right through it. But 3 years is close enough that the retirement's real, but far enough that you can still make meaningful changes. That window does not stay open forever. And the decisions you make in these next 3 years either lock in a retirement you can relax into, or they lock in problems you'll spend the next 30 years living with. I'm going to give you 5 things to do right now. Not the generic advice you've already heard hundreds of times, but the specific moves that actually change the outcome. The ones most people skip because no one told them they mattered. My name's Tyler. I'm a financial planner, and I work with people in this window every week. Let's get into it. And real quick, if you want someone to walk through these 5 things for your situation, that's what we do at Riverbend. There's a link in the description below to book a free discovery call. All right, here's the first one. Most people start retirement planning with the wrong question. They ask, how much money do I need? I think the better question is, what life am I trying to fund? Before you build a retirement budget, you need to understand what you really spend. So go and pull up the last 12 months of spending, maybe 24 months if you want to. Not what you think you spent, but what actually left your accounts. And most banks, you can pull this up and there's budgeting tools that will show you the spending categories. But start with reality, then begin adjusting. Take out the things that are not going to be there. Maybe in retirement, you don't have 401k contributions. Those go away. And maybe payroll taxes if you're not working at all. Maybe the mortgage gets paid off. And then add in the things that go up. You might travel more. You probably will. And maybe you go play a lot more golf. Maybe it's time with the grandkids. Maybe you take up new hobbies. But add that in and then see what that number comes out to. And the reality is most people give a rough answer of, I need $6,000 a month, but they aren't sure what they're even basing that on. We need to look at what you're really spending and add in the things we do while we aren't working. So then maybe you discover your number is less than you imagine, and now you've got some buffer. Or maybe you discover you've been underestimating by up to $1,000 a month. Now you got a little bit of a problem. Either way, I'd rather you know now. That's the whole point of doing this at 3 years out instead of waiting. At 3 years out, this will show you the gap and you'll have some time to do something about it. You could save more. You could adjust your spending expectations. You could rethink the date you want to retire. Now, 1 year out, this is still helpful. It'll tell you the truth, but you've got almost no time to fix it. Most people walk into retirement guessing what their life costs. You can walk in knowing. Now, the second thing is we want to begin to build a cash cushion now. Once you know your real number, the next question is, how much of that actually has to come from my portfolio? Because not all retirement income is the same. Maybe part of your spending is covered by Social Security. Maybe you have a pension. Maybe you have some rental income. Maybe you plan to work part-time for the first few years. Those are income sources. But whatever's left, that's the gap your portfolio has to fill. And that's the number we need to protect. Let's say your retirement lifestyle costs $9,000 a month, but Social Security and pension cover $5,000. That means your portfolio has to provide $4,000 a month or $48,000 a year. A 2-year cash cushion would be roughly $96,000. Now, the goal of this money isn't long-term growth. That's not the job of cash. The job of cash is to buy you time without hurting the long-term investment. Because if the market drops early in retirement, I don't want your paycheck controlled by the market. I want you to have a place to pull income from while your long-term investments have time to recover. And the mistake I see all the time is people waiting until the last year to do this. Then they go try to build the cushion and they're selling large chunks of investments all at once and maybe even during a bad market. 3 years out gives you options. You can save cash gradually. You can rebalance gradually. You can build the cushion slowly. The goal isn't performance. The goal is flexibility. Because the point of cash is to not make you rich. The point of cash is to keep a bad market from deciding when you have to sell. Point number 3, lock down your Social Security strategy. 3 years before retirement, Social Security should move from the I'll figure it out later bucket into the written down and decided bucket. Go to SSA.gov, pull your estimate, look at 62, look at full retirement age, look at 70, and write your numbers down. Now, if you're married, remember this. When one spouse passes away, the survivor keeps the higher benefit, not both. This makes the decision much bigger than most people realize. Now, if you're divorced, Don't assume your only option is your own benefit. If your marriage lasted at least 10 years, you're currently unmarried, and your own benefit is lower, you might be able to claim based on your former spouse's record. And if your former spouse has passed away, survivor rules may also apply. The point here is simple though. Don't guess. Do your research, know your options before you claim. This could be one of the biggest income decisions you'll make in retirement. So start planning, because if you leave this decision for the year before you retire, you'll be making one of the most permanent financial choices in your life in the middle of one of the most emotional transitions of your life. Decide it now when your head's clear. And a quick reminder, if you're realizing there are more moving pieces than you thought, that is normal. This is exactly what we help clients with every single day. There's a link below to schedule a call. Now, most people think the hard part is saving enough to retire. But 3 years out, the bigger question becomes, where does my paycheck come from when the paycheck stops? So let's say you retire at 64 and you take Social Security at 67, or maybe you wait until 70. That creates a gap. 3 years, 6 years, or maybe longer. And this is where a lot of people accidentally create tax problems, because they just start pulling money from wherever feels easiest. Cash first, then brokerage account, then the IRA. But the order matters. Where you pull income from affects your tax bracket. Your tax bracket affects how you handle Roth conversions. Your Roth conversions are going to affect your future RMDs. Future RMDs could affect your Medicare premiums. Here's the part almost nobody plans for. Medicare looks back 2 years. The premium you pay at 65 is based on your income at 63. A big final year paycheck, a bonus, a large Roth conversion, an oversized IRA withdrawal, or taxable gains from selling investments or property, that could all push your Medicare premium higher right as you enroll. And it's a cliff, not a slope. In 2026, crossing the first IRMAA threshold by even $1 can cost roughly hundreds, if not thousands more per person per year when you factor in the monthly surcharge. That's the kind of thing you can see coming at 3 years out and miss completely at 1. And suddenly, a simple paycheck decision touches the whole retirement plan. So 3 years out, you want your income plan built. Not perfect, but built. Know which accounts you'll spend from, know which accounts you're going to leave alone, and know whether there's room for Roth conversions. Know how you're bridging the gap before Social Security starts, and the retirement paycheck plan will become not just where do I get money, it's which dollars should I spend now and which dollars should I let keep growing. Point number 5, connect all the pieces. This is where most people get stuck. They think retirement is a collection of separate decisions: investments, Social Security, taxes, healthcare, estate planning. But none of those decisions exist in isolation. Let me give you an example. Not a real client, but a very real situation. Imagine a couple, both 64 years old. They save well. They have a 401k, an IRA, brokerage account, some cash, and a house that's almost paid off. Now, on paper, they look fine. So they just start making retirement decisions one at a time. First, they decide they want to retire at 64. Then they decide they're going to delay Social Security until 70 because they heard that was usually better. Then they decide they want to take some cash and pay off the mortgage because they hate debt and they want to be debt-free. Then they start taking income from wherever feels easiest, a little bit from the remaining cash, a little bit from brokerage account, a little from the IRA. But there's no clear order, no tax strategy, no plan for which dollars should be spent first and which dollars should be left alone. And that's where the problem starts. Delaying Social Security creates a 6-year income gap. Paying off the mortgage gives them peace of mind, but it also reduces their cash cushion. Pulling from the wrong accounts at the wrong time then raises their taxable income. Higher taxable income can shrink the room for Roth conversions, and later it could increase Medicare premiums. Then, if the market drops early in retirement, they may be pulling from investments at the exact moment they wish they could leave them alone. Now, look what happened. The Social Security decision became an income decision. What they did with their income, that affected their taxes. And then their taxes became a Medicare decision. The mortgage decision became a liquidity decision. And the investment choices became a timing decision. That's retirement planning. It's not just asking, is this a good decision? It's asking, what does this decision affect? Because one that's good in isolation could still be wrong for the whole plan. 3 years before retirement, your goal is not to have every answer. Your goal is clarity. Understand what you own, Know where your income comes from, know how taxes, Social Security, healthcare, and investments all coordinate with each other because retirement isn't derailed by one obviously terrible decision. It's derailed by a series of reasonable decisions that were never coordinated. So, those are the 5 things to do with 3 years left. But a couple of these come back to one question: what's your actual number? Not a generic target like $1 million, the real number for your life. I made a video that walks through how to find that right here, and it's not the answer most people expect. I'll see you there.